Sometimes I wonder if we understand Islam as it should be understood.
Sometimes it's hard to strengthen our faith amidst all these distractions.
Sometimes we're confused about what we want and what our next steps should be.
Sometimes you need to take a moment and reflect on what matters most.
And because we live in such uncertain times with so much going on around us, I guess sometimes we just gotta sit down and talk about it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So listening to the inspiring stories of converts it always has a very deep impact on me. And I mean, I'm really honored to be sitting with 3 converts to Ahmadiyyat over here today. And I mean, speaking about youth issues, there are so many different perspectives that we have brought to this program. People who have grown up in Western society but were born Ahmadi. But I think at the same time, a convert who shares his experiences and his thoughts about a certain thing, it always takes on a different perspective because you've lived a lifetime before Ahmadiyyat, and then you started to question faith, question, existence of God and other things. And then you came to the conclusion that, Jama'at Ahmadiyya was the true Islam and was right. So you found beauty in this. And that's something that would really inspire me because I would like to hear about, what is it that you found beautiful about Ahmadiyyat? And I think that would be inspiring to youth as well. So I mean, as converts who have consciously decided to accept Jama'at Ahmadiyya and accept the religion of Islam, I mean, what does Islam mean to you and what does being an Ahmadi-Muslim mean to you?
I've always felt it was about following a set of rules and codes, and some people need that. And I was one of those wild horses that needed a saddle on me. Like I needed something to, direct me a certain way. And just to give you a glimpse of that, one time a friend of my dad was going to tell him that, get your son to leave Islam. And my dad said, I've seen him after he accepted Islam, and I saw him before. I would never say anything to make him leave Islam. So my family saw that there was a genuine change. But what I told them the change is that I found instructions, like I found a manual, and I'm just trying to follow what's in that book. So it was really easy to have an example and have a book and just be able to take these two things in. But I kind of was looking for someone to look up to, like maybe a big brother or an icon or something. And actually it was the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Holy Quran that I found okay, they simplified it. They made it really easy. And to be honest, I was really happy that our Quran is this thick and not this thick because, the Quran is tangible. You can read it. You can read it in a month. But some other holy books, it takes you, might as well be your lifetime. So
I guess from that perspective, it was easier,
yeah,
right, to read the Holy Quran. That's nice. I mean, Yusuf, would you like to share something? I mean, for me, take for example that I was born an Ahmadi-Muslim. My parents were Ahmadis, my grandparents were Ahmadis, their grandparents were Ahmadi-Muslims, and I grew up my entire life around Ahmadi-Muslims, right? So my experience of a certain thing is totally different to yours, right? And that's what I'm trying to not compare, but try to extract, the beautiful things about Islam that somebody else might have come to discover that even I don't know, even though I have studied the religion of Islam for, quite a while now. So I mean, what do you find beautiful?
I think you've accurately depicted it in saying that we've lived 2 lives before. At least I have. Often, I tell to a lot of youth, I was like, to me, it's like I've already lived 2 lives, right? In this short amount of time. Right. Sometimes I even feel tired because of it. I was like, oh my God, I'm already working on the second one. Yeah. I'd say one thing that people have to remember with my personal experience is the first book I wrote is from the Promised Messiah, Islam. The status of the Holy Prophet, the status of the Holy Quran, right? I recognize these because he said these were the highest status. He said there's no prophet has a higher status than this prophet.
Which book did you read?
The first book I wrote is Philosophy and Teachings of Islam, but I read a number of books before I converted. I spent almost about a year doing research. And I really resonated with a couple of ideas. One was that there was a real world value to morality, right? From my background, generally when I asked why we could, they'd be like, you can't do that. And I was like, well, why not? And they're like, the Bible said so. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, why do I have to follow that book? And it was, well, it's the word of God. And I was like, well, how do you know? And they're like, eyewitness account. And I was like, how do you know for sure, right? And they're like, you'll find out when you're dead. And I was like, you find out when you're dead. And I was like, this life seems pretty short, and I'm going to try to make the most of it while I'm here. But he gave an idea, goes, one of the ideas, my favorite, he said, whether this is real or not, right? He goes, all of these things are good for you right now. Minus heaven or hell, minus whether or not there's a divine being or not. He's like, we shouldn't be drinking because it's physically bad for us. It is literally poison. We're poisoning our brain and our body and our livers, right? And and it was these foods. He's like, you shouldn't eat bad foods. Pork was one of the ones he's listed, but he's right. And like, we shouldn't eat bad foods in general. They do affect us. They make us what we are, right? And then the next thing he said, he goes, you can never believe in God until you experience God, really experience God. And he goes, let me tell you what it means to experience God. He goes, these are the signs. He goes, your dreams are going to change. You might even see the future in your dreams. You know what I mean? He talked about revelation, right? Intuition, acceptance of prayer, and a special type of acceptance of prayer that I think only a person that's really experienced it can really kind of say what that water tastes like. So I accepted Islam because of the Promised Messiah Islam. So people are always kind of like, why Ahmadiyya? And I was like, because he's the one that, Promised Messiah Islam was really the one that introduced me to Islam. I guess I vibrated with his message, right? Like it resonated with me. And I was like, okay. Then I made a proper investigation, and then I read the Holy Quran, then I started reading Hadith, right? But it was actually his literature first.
So how long ago did you convert?
My God, March 2009. So we're coming up on a decade in March, inshallah. Inshallah.
And Adam, by yourself, you converted?
10 years this year.
10 years, mashallah. And Fidel, how long ago did you convert?
I converted almost 3 years ago.
Okay,
it's going to be 3 years in February.
Okay, mashallah. And I mean, what sort of led you to Ahmadiyya and to finally accept?
When I began looking into different religions, it was more because I felt like I had gone astray and I wanted to reconnect with God. So I would attend church because that was the only life I knew. Right. So when I started to attend church, I saw a lot of joy in people's eyes that I just didn't have that same connection. So the thing is, like, there was a part of me that felt like it wasn't for me. Like, it was just something I could not follow. So I felt kind of like left out because whenever I questioned things, people would label me as an atheist, and I wasn't an atheist. I believed in God, but it was just something I couldn't follow. So from there, like, I started looking into different beliefs, and it was a long journey. The moment when I found Islam, like, I knew it answered like every question that I had, that for my whole life, it was always more of like the response that I would get was more like, you have to have faith. Like, this is God testing you. And it just never seemed plausible to me that could be the answer to everything. So when I started looking into Islam, a lot of the questions that it had a more intricate response. And it was just something that it finally just, when I read it, I was just like, yes. So, like, for me to convert to Islam, it was one of the blessings it was one of the greatest blessings that I have ever had given to me.
Mashallah. I mean, on this program, we've discussed a lot of topics. How to get youth more active doing tabligh, what does it actually mean to be an Ahmadi-Muslim, why we should stay away from social evils and social vices. And I mean, for youth to just hear a story like this, how somebody else who was not a Muslim, not an Ahmadi-Muslim, knew nothing about the Prophet Muhammad, for him to sit back and just say, yes, I mean, this is it. I mean, that's something for people who are born Ahmadi-Muslims, something that we've inherited, something that we already have. So I think, like, for me at least, as like among those Ahmadi-Muslim youth who are listening to inspiring stories like this, at least for me, it makes me proud of my Muslim identity and Ahmadi-Muslim identity, and it makes me appreciate Jama'at Ahmadiyya more, right? Knowing that, somebody else found this to be that path that they were always looking for their entire life. So I mean, after conversion, I know I can only imagine some of the challenges that somebody would face after, it's such a huge step to take in one's life. So what were some of the challenges that you as a convert faced?
Well, I have to say that by the grace of Allah, He accepted my first prayer. That was that, please don't let anybody in my family give me a hard time about this. So alhamdulillah, there's not a single family member, cousin, aunt, uncle that has any problem with me being a Muslim, and they're very happy. But all the friends, every single friend, I lost. And it was because I didn't want to talk about anything other than Islam anymore. And I became like that person who's like obsessed with NASCAR. I just talked about NASCAR all the time. Like it was just, if somebody said, the weather's nice, I said, oh, in the Quran, it says, and somebody says something about anything, I just, Quran. And so I became kind of annoying maybe. And so all my friends just thought, you changed. Before you were always trying to like break the law or like do bad stuff. And now you're just talking about this book. And I realized that I was going in the same direction with them. And then I got off and went a different way. And they kept going. And I was no longer, in the same direction as them. But I turned towards a new group of friends. And, people who have the same interests, and we're all obsessed with Islam. So it's like, I enjoy sitting in the company of us and listening to somebody be just as excited about talking about Islam as I am. But unfortunately, I lost that with like everybody I went to high school with, everybody I went to college with. They just disappeared because I made a life decision.
And I mean, now you're pursuing your passion in Islam by doing Islamic studies, and you'll be becoming a missionary, inshallah. So you're studying now, mashallah. So
I had, I know the feeling. I had to give up all my old friends. It was so hard. I think that's something that people will never understand. Like, we talk about sacrificing that brown cow. Like, that's hard. That was one of the hard ones, right? It was especially, I guess, like culturally, right? I know, like, family is important, but like friends are also big. They were like we called each other family, and it was kind of the same thing for me. I guess like I wanted to talk about God, and that was like, it was like a no type thing, And also, I think people didn't want for me to change. They wanted, they kind of put me, they typecast me and said, we want you to be this person. And when I wanted to start evolving and moving out of that typecast, they didn't like it, right? But I'm happy that I was able to make like that sacrifice. And I think those people, I think they're still moving along, right? It's just the path that we've taken, we're moving faster, right? Like there's a lot of ground that has to be covered. And I think this is Promise Sallallahu said. It's not these other people aren't making growth in themselves, but they're not, with the amount of growth that needs to take place, it's not fast enough, right? Religion's like a vehicle that gets us to another place. And this is the Ferrari. This guy is getting us, it's the fastest, it is Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim, right? They'll get to these points, right? They're going to realize there's a God. They're going to realize that drugs and alcohol are not good. You know what I mean? Dating ends in heartbreak, right? And these people jaded, right? But it's going to take them a lot longer to get there, right? And by following these rules, we can expedite that journey.
So I mean, Fidel, you're relatively newer to Ahmadiyyat than Adam and Yusuf, right?
Yeah, I'm still in the process of what they're going through. But initially when I did convert and I told them, they were all like, oh, like, good luck with that. Or, some just went a completely different way for me. They wanted someone who continued to drink. They wanted someone who was going to eat pork for some reason. And the thing is, like, for me, it's very difficult to deal with, especially because you do feel alone. Again, I do have the Jama'at, so I'm really happy for that and grateful for that. But like going back to because I live further out from here, so I want to move closer so I can have this as a daily lifestyle. But in my area where people are just like leaving and they're like, they don't understand, like I kind of preach before they leave, and not in a sense where I'm just like, like this is like the truth. Like I just tell them the way that Islam should be preached, that this is why I'm quitting all of this, and it's not for something illogical. It's just is beneficial for you, or for myself anyway. And the thing is, when I meet people, they have all of these these difficult questions that they think, like no one could ever answer. The other day I met a man from Turkey, and he asked me, because he saw my ring, and he's like, "What does that mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, it means like, is Allah not sufficient for His servant?" And he was baffled, because he's like, "Aren't you Latino?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Where does the influence come from?" And that kind of like, I didn't realize what exactly he was asking until I thought about it. And the thing is, like with most worlds, they think that Islam is like forced on you. They think that religion is forced on you. So the fact that he's meeting someone where my response was, I converted personally. And he's like, "What about the rest of Latin America?" I'm like, "We have a lot of mosques. Like I want to go visit Guatemala because we have a beautiful mosque there." And he's like, "But where did the influence come from?" And I'm like, for me personally, I converted. And for Latin America, we just have missionaries who go and they preach the true teachings of Islam, and they themselves accept it. And once they do accept it, like we will build a mosque there so that they have somewhere to pray. And he's just like, "Yeah, but aren't they like more like religious, like Christians or Catholics?" And I'm just there saying, a lot of people, personally, like I just feel like they are so misguided that they don't believe it in themselves anymore. So they kind of lose path of what is right and what is wrong. Like the true path to God. So it's kind of it's our job to go there and to teach them the true teachings of Islam and God, so that way they can be guided to the true.
I think that's
true
so
beauty.
beautiful, because just some of the things you said and how you guys narrated how you lost friends. We were speaking about youth whose social circles influence them. We were speaking about, it's very difficult to leave your circle of friends, especially when it's guys you've known for your entire life. And we were speaking about this from the perspective of, can you really say that to a young khadim who may be involved in different social issues and maybe indulging in those issues, that, abandon your friends, right? But I guess like this is really inspiring, because when you accepted Ahmadiyyat, you lost friends, you lost your social circles, and there was a lot of challenges from your family as well. So I think for me, as an Ahmadi-Muslim khadim, somebody who's born into it, that speaks a lot to me. I mean, like if converts went through that, then that shows me that I need to discover Ahmadiyyat as well. And in the process of me discovering Ahmadiyyat, even though I've been born into it, I'm going to lose friends along the way, and maybe even some of my family members, maybe, who were indulging in certain things and bringing me to those things. Maybe I'm going to have to lose them as well, right? But for converts, I mean, there may be other converts who are going through these same issues. How did you cope, and how do you cope? And you were speaking earlier, like, is it getting better? What's going on? Like, is there hope? Like, what can we say to a convert who's watching this and who may be going through the same thing that, Adam, you went through 10 years ago, Yusufa, you went through 10 years ago, and Fidel, you're going through currently. And
I guess something I just noticed, like just a second ago, is we're all wearing a ring that says Allah is sufficient. We're wearing that as a reminder. Like just to get through this, sometimes we need a reminder, and it helps every once in a while that you touch your ring and then you look at it, and then you think of the time that this was said to the Prophet ﷺ in a time where he was in desperate need and he felt like he was losing everything. Allah said to him, "Is not Allah sufficient for His servant?" So in these times, we do have to get a reminder. So I suggest a ring, but we need to go and attract ourselves to somebody who's also maybe going through that time. And outside of this organization, there's an organization called Big Brother, where they usually pair you up. Sometimes come up to us, come up to me and say, "Do you mind if we hang out sometime?" There's nothing that I have to do in a day except for help my brothers around me. So if somebody wants to hang out or, ask me how I got through it, I'll tell them and I'll be there for them. But I got to tell them that some parts you'll have to do on your own, and it will be hard. But you go places, the best things in life are the things you have to work hard for. So I think that you need a reminder, and you need to be around somebody who's been reminded.
I agree with you. I feel like there is a point when every khadim's going to have to decide right? Or our legitimate members as well, if this is the truth, right? And in that moment, there is a conversion, right? Or maybe like we could say like a shift, right? A change takes place. In that moment, you're like, this is the truth. And everybody's gonna have to go through it. Otherwise, to a certain extent, it's a culture, right? Even I would, with religion, right? We say there's a difference between religion and culture. But if we're practicing a religion and we don't understand what the wisdom is behind it and why we're doing it, there's a level of culture to it, right? It means nothing to say Allah if we don't ponder with the depths, or at least try to attempt to ponder the depths of Allah. And I think that there's a chance to make a proper investigation, right? And to look into, everybody should make a decision if this is true or not.
Right. We were speaking earlier, when looking at Hazrat Muslim Maud Razillahu Ta'ala anhu, he was the second Khalifa of the promised Messiah ﷺ. And there even came a time when even he said, did I accept Ahmadiyyat because my father is the promised Messiah, peace be upon him? Or did I accept Ahmadiyyat because Ahmadiyyat is the truth? And because my father was sent by God. And he said that, I'm going to evaluate by myself, and if I find it to be true, then I'm going to accept it fully with my heart. And if I find out that it's wrong through my research, then I'm going to run away from home. And so even Hazrat Muslim Maud Razillahu Ta'ala anhu did this. And I think that's something that's very necessary for all youth to do, is that, we have converts who went through this process, but a lot of the born Ahmadis have not gone through this process. And like the conclusions that you have come to and finding the beauty in Islam, that's sort of some of the things that we've missed out on by not evaluating it from this perspective as well. And I mean, if we do begin to evaluate it, then we only come up with more and more beauties that we become more proud of, and then we want to speak to other people about those things. So from the, convert perspective, I'm going to speak more about, like, let's say you were speaking as a convert to youth who were struggling with social vices. What kind of advice would you give?
One thing I would say, are we speaking specifically mostly about drugs and alcohol, right? Would be one of the major ones that we're suffering from. If somebody's using drugs or alcohol, they should realize something's wrong, right? They're medicating a situation. Either they're not at peace, they're feeling internal conflict, right? They're not happy. One thing I'd say is they don't like the company they're keeping, right? Whenever we have to drink, one of the things that I always tell people quickly once they quit drinking is that they're gonna realize they don't like a lot of their friends. They're gonna be like, whoa, all we had in common, right, is drinking together, and now I really don't enjoy you, right? So another thing I'd say is they're not enjoying their company. They need to really take a look at who they're hanging out with, and also why they're not happy. What's wrong? What's missing from their life? What's not in alignment? Right? And I think a lot of youth use ignorance as a shield. They say, if I don't read these books, I'm not going to be held accountable. Right? One, I'll tell them one. Ignorance is not a shield. It is not going to work. Right? Completing ignorance on that day's coming no matter what. Right? And especially if God's made the decision very easy and put all of the knowledge right at the footstep, right? The accountability is even twice as high. Right? And secondly, I'd say that they're going to feel better. Once they understand the things that they find disagreeable, trust me, Allah and His Messenger find them disagreeable as well. And they're going to, once they have that knowledge, they're going to have the tools they need to find that happiness, right? And a lot of times what's missing, right, is the truth, right? Because we're here, right, to, I guess, to like self-actualize and figure out the purpose of our creation, right? And that's like recognizing our Creator. Right, and these are the tools and how to do it, and then their life's gonna have purpose, right?
Anything that you would like to add for that?
Yeah, for me, one thing I never noticed until after was look at who you're surrounding yourselves around. Okay, these people that are telling you, oh, like, come out, have fun, like drink and smoke and do all this. Ask yourself, why are they asking you to come out? They feel alone. And why do they feel alone? If you look at their decisions, they'll say to you, like, I believe in God, but I just don't know if this religion is for me, right? So they'll believe in God and they'll live their lives saying that God is punishing me like I'm a good person. Yeah, you're a good person, but look at the actions that you're doing. You're telling people to come and smoke with you, to come do like all of drinking with you. It's like, why? And then they do bad deeds that they don't realize are bad deeds because they're misguided. And they want you to come join them so that they don't feel alone and that you walk down this path. You know, we as Ahmadis, alhamdulillah, we have so much resource to see why we shouldn't smoke, why we shouldn't drink, why we shouldn't do certain stuff. And it's because eventually, like, this is what they're missing. This is what they're looking for. And they're not gonna ever, for the most part, they won't feel the energy or the motivation to go out and look for what you have at your disposal. You just don't realize it because they're your friends. But you have to kind of ask yourself why, and you'll get the answers.
Adam, any closing remarks or anything to add?
Well,
Final moments?
I definitely think that, you know, we're an example of there's other people to chill with than these people, because I know that there were some times that I didn't want to be with those people, but I was just doing it, you know, doing what they were doing. But when I found a different group of people who didn't need those things and that we could go places, travel the world together, do exciting things together, I was very relieved that that option was there. And, you know, for us, we have Islam-Ahmadiyyat. And once these youth wake up and start realizing and appreciating Islam-Ahmadiyyat, what it has to offer, the trips, the retreats, the ijtimas, all these things, this is the way out of that lifestyle of vices, you know. But if you don't come to these, you know, it's not coming to you. You have to kind of meet us. You have to leave your group, and we're there waiting. And I tell you that my brother, he really enjoyed the ijtimas in that sense, that meeting all these people who are keeping away from the same thing, you know, it's really helpful to hear. And especially if somebody went through some trial, you're like, okay, I'm not the only one suffering with some type of addiction or anything like that. But, you know, there's a better group out there. Subat Salihin, find the righteous people. And
you know, we really enjoy when Adam Bhai comes down to MTA and, you know, shares his wisdom with us. You know, I'm always looking forward to it. You know, one thing that really inspired me, made me question something that, you know, I was speaking to Adam recently, and, you know, he was saying that, you know, when he goes to the mosque, some youth come up to him and ask him, you know, what's the strongest proof for the existence of God that you know? Because he's a convert and, you know, he knows these arguments. And like he came back and said, you know, we're Ahmadi-Muslims. We're far beyond the existence of God. Like, this is such a basic level thing. It should be a basic level thing for us, that we should be far beyond this. And that's why I think, you know, I hope converts keep sharing their experiences with, you know, the rest of Jama'at. It's really inspiring. And Jazakallah for sharing your experiences today. I was really inspired by it, and I know for a fact that viewers and youth will be inspired by these stories as well. Jazakumullah for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
नौने हालाने जमात मुझे कुछ कहना है, पर है ये शर्त के ज़ाए मेरा पे